Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. I am Joe, and I'm your host every Tuesday evening right here on WNRI 99.9 on the FM dial, 1380 on the AM dial. If you have any questions during the show, you can certainly give us a call at 401-769-0600. And whatever they have to do with, I will answer them for you live on air. If I don't have the answer, I will get them for you. A little about me. Of course, my name is Joe. I work at RE/MAX in North Providence. I've been a realtor since 2006, and I work with buyers and sellers of real estate in Rhode Island and Mass. And I have a team of colleagues, other agents in just about every state in the country to help you out with. You know, this is our 12th year with the Joe Luca Real Estate Show here at WNRI. And I started this show because I saw that there were so many consumers that were either ill-informed or uninformed about the process of buying and selling real estate. And I say ill-informed because many people had misconceptions that were not based in current fact. Maybe it was fact 40 years ago. And what I try to provide you, the listeners, and if you're watching the show online, the viewers, I try to provide relevant, salient information to folks, whether you're looking to buy or sell a home now or thinking about doing something 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. And, sometimes when I talk to, buyers go on my website or they come in somehow and I talk to them and they're like, well, I'm not looking to buy something now. I'm like, all right, no worries. What's your time frame? 6 months, 12 months down the road, 2 years? Because, you have to become educated. An educated consumer when it comes to buying and selling real estate is a more financially secure consumer. If you're buying a home, and we can start the process now, and you're going to buy a house in 12, 18 months down the road, that's a lot of ramp-up time for me to educate you as a consumer, not only about the process of what it takes to buy a home, but about things you can do so that you can ultimately receive a lower mortgage payment, perhaps even a lower down payment. Things that you can do so that you understand the market. You have a better feel for what the market is doing. So when you read headlines, you know how to read into the headlines, because a lot of times headlines can be, as we've talked about in the show many times, headlines can be deceiving, and they paint a picture or imply something that isn't necessarily accurate. Okay, people talk about home sales are up, prices are down, sales are down. You can have sales going down and have a very strong market with prices going up. Okay, so it's really important to start the educational process as early as possible. So if you're thinking about buying a home, the first step is to put together a plan, and that's where I can come in, as an experienced professional, to help you put together a game plan that you will be comfortable with as far as what's going on in your life, financially, etc. If you're going to be selling, okay, the earlier we can start that process, the better it is, because there are things that need to be done when you are preparing to put your home on the market. Okay, if it's little things like just cleaning up the yard, landscaping, little touch-up paint here and there, or if it's major things could be major repairs, could be systems updates. Okay, your HVAC system or the boiler is on its way out, or it could just be a huge task list of decluttering and cleaning. Okay, that can be really overwhelming. We're going to talk a little bit about a new listing that I'm announcing tonight for the first time, and we'll go into that because that homeowner has and has had some challenges regarding preparing the home for the market. But this is something that it is relevant and it's significant. Preparing your home for sale at all price points. Okay, if you're an entry-level home or multi-million dollar, super expensive homes. Okay, you can have a house that's priced at $15 million that still needs $10 million of work because you go inside and it's like going back to 1978. Big property, beautiful, all top-notch, first class, first quality materials all throughout the house in 1978. But tastes change. Our culture changes. I was talking to my stepfather the other day. We were talking about dining rooms. Folks don't. A formal dining room is not an important part of the decision-making process for most home buyers. Our culture has changed. The way we eat as couples, as families, has changed over the past 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Certainly the past 45 years. So when you have a home, there are things that you need to look at. And of course, the best way to determine what changes need to be made is to talk to a professional, a realtor, a full-time real estate agent. I was watching this real estate show, and it was about super expensive listings that didn't sell. They were on the market literally for years, and didn't sell despite very significant price reductions. And there are lessons here for us common folk. And there's a term in the industry called taste specific. Okay. I can have my house and build my house because I'm going to live there, and it can be suited to my wants and my needs, my lifestyle, my favorite colors, my favorite materials. Okay, that's taste specific for Joe Luca. If I'm going to sell that house, that being specific may not be a taste that is valued or attractive to many or most consumers, which is what you want when you're trying to sell something. Okay, they were profiling several houses. They profiled Michael Jordan's house in Chicago. Of course, Michael Jackson's house, Neverland, out in California. Burt Reynolds' house in Florida. These are amazing properties, really large. Whitney Houston's house in New Jersey. And, that was probably, I think, the one that I liked the least. Burt Reynolds' house was very 1980, but maybe because I'm old, but I like that one more than Whitney Houston's home, which was very 1987. It was all like concrete, very cold. The house was like rectangles and then circled. Like, if you looked at it from above, it was very geometric. But a lot of wasted space, a lot of things that most people don't care about in a house, like a recording studio. These are things that could be better utilized. That square footage could be better utilized by someone, with a different purpose in there. So these are things that made a lot of sense for Whitney Houston, someone who was, making music all the time and wanted the convenience of recording albums in her home. Or Michael Jordan, who, has basketball courts and indoor swimming pools and, super high ceilings and things like that that are very appropriate for someone who's, 6.5 feet tall and makes millions of dollars playing basketball. But for the rest of us, not so much the case. So, those are two houses that took quite a long time to sell, and they had very significant price reductions. I think Whitney's house, it wasn't a high dollar amount, but I think it was like a 40% price reduction. Okay. Mike Tyson's house in Connecticut, I think that was like a $75 million house, and it ended up selling for like $22 million. Major price reduction. But that was a big, beautiful house in a great town on a great property. So someone can do something with that. That house was probably just overpriced because it was Mike Tyson's house, you know. But these are the types of things that, as a regular homeowner who's thinking about selling their home, you want to try and reduce the taste specificity, things that are specific to the current owner. So if it was the colors of the walls, the type of flooring, the layout of the house, you can do a lot just by changing the furniture. Get rid of some furniture that may be taking up a lot of the floor space. Okay, these are things that, aren't going to be valued by the average consumer, number one, and number two, it's going to detract from the ultimate appreciation that the consumer will have for your home when they're looking at a room and they see it's chock full of big oversized clunky furniture. Or you may have the Archie Bunker chair, where it's that comfortable chair you always sit in, but it's ugly. It doesn't do anything to add aesthetically to the presence of the room. See, things like that you want to get rid of, okay? Because you want to put your best foot forward. You have one chance to make a strong impression on the consumer when they come in your house. Again, these are things that if you had to do them all within a week, it would be overwhelming. But if you do a little bit at a time over several months, now it's a much more manageable process. Maybe you can, get some help from friends and family. Okay, again, outside, curb appeal is super important. Anything you can do to make the grass greener, make the edges straighter, those are things that are important, because most consumers, the first time they see a picture of your house, it's going to be on a portable digital device, like a phone or a tablet. So they're looking at a very small image, and if you have clean lines and sharp colors, it's going to make a better impression than if you have overgrown shrubs and trees with branches hanging down and the grass is overgrowing the walk, things like that. So you want to be able to do whatever you can to make your home, your structure, your property present better than it otherwise would. Because that means you're going to sell your home more quickly and most likely for more money than otherwise. Because if someone comes in and they look at your house and they see something minor, something small that they need to deal with, what's happening in their brain is they're subtracting money off of the asking price of the house. So let's just say you've got a house on the market for $550,000. And they come and they look and they see all the shrubs all around the exterior of the house. They're overgrown. They're too close to the foundation. The beds aren't maintained. The grass isn't nice. They're going to be thinking, oh, I've got to hire someone to do that. It's going to cost me $5,000. They go inside. Carpets are all tattered, stained. Maybe the house smells. Oh, that's going to be another $10,000 to replace all those carpets. These numbers, they're just maybe pulling numbers out of thin air. But that's what goes on in their head. Now they put an offer in this case it's $15,000 low, and now you have to, as a seller, counter, and what you're fighting against is their impression of your home, their first impression of your home. So if you can remove those negative first impressions, not that it has to have the impression of like, oh my gosh, that's a fantastic, beautiful house. No, you don't want to leave the consumer or impact the consumer with a negative first impression. Okay, so you don't want the house to be remembered for bad things. You want the house to be remembered for positive things, the flow inside, walking around the furniture, as opposed to, the furniture was very cluttered and tight and there wasn't much room to walk. That's what they're going to remember your home for. Or if it smells like cigarette smoke inside the house, or if it smells like, pets, whatever that may be, dander, urine, whatever. Okay, you don't want your house to be remembered for something like that. Ideally, you want your house to be remembered for being very well maintained. Wow, that was a really neat, clean, well-maintained home. And a perfect place, I find, the best place to determine, to identify how well maintained a home is in the basement. Okay, what does the basement look like? How clean is it? The electrical and the plumbing, how is that all maintained in the basement? Is there evidence of water penetration through the foundation? Is there evidence of leaks from the plumbing and the first floor going down into the basement? You look into the floor joists, you can see all of that. Do you have a problem with bugs or critters coming in the basement? You go through a basement, it's well lit, it's neat. You can walk all around. Doesn't have to be a big basement, but you can walk around kind of unfettered. That's good. Now, of course, I realize that we all live our lives, we collect stuff, and day to day, basements may not always be in perfect condition, which is why, again, you need to start the process early so that you can clean up, declutter, have nice flow. I mean, I've been in some houses where, man, I go in the basement and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like a dream that I have, because everything is, I wish I had a basement that was like that, or a garage that was like that, or whatever, even the whole house. It's super duper clean, everything is perfectly maintained and stored away, and everything's labeled. That's really impressive when you see that. That's probably 2% of all houses that are out there, believe me. Okay, so if you have one of those basements, you know that you are in, rare company. There aren't many people that do that. I'd say at least half of all garages don't store cars. Okay, they're for storing stuff. Okay, and it's usually just extra stuff. But ideally, you want to, again, start the process early so that you're not overwhelmed, and so you can do a couple of steps, take a step back, look at it, reflect, what should I do next, consult with your real estate agent, and that's what you do. On the buyer side, the things you can do is look at the listings. Okay, I send my buyers listings in the general geographic area that they're looking at. Now, sometimes they're limited to a specific price point, but sometimes I'll kind of bump that out, go a little bit higher and a little bit lower than their desired price range, just for a point of comparison. If you're looking at a house from, and again, we're going to take numbers, $450,000 to $550,000. Well, what happens if we go up to $575,000? Does that open up a lot more houses that maybe they're $25,000 more, but they need no work done to them? You can move right in. Or you go $25,000 lower and, wow, you know what? I can get a house that needs a little bit more work, but it's much more a house. It's a bigger yard, or, whatever the case may be. So what this does is my buyers then become more acquainted with the market. Jeepers, what if we were to take this, and instead of we're only looking in Cumberland, what if we decided to look into Woonsocket, or if we decided to look into Lincoln or North Providence? How would that impact how much house we could afford? One thing people realize when they start looking in more rural areas is how much land you get. You get a lot more land for the same price in more rural areas. Okay? So, as a buyer, you want to be very educated, very well informed about the marketplace. And then the business cycle, what's going on in the business cycle? What's it like? And again, if you're looking more than a year out, you can start to understand, like, okay, this is what happens in the market in January and February. You get the perspective of a real estate professional. And then you see in March and April and May what the changes are. Excuse me. And then June and July and August, and then September and October, you start to get a feel for the cadence of the market, the rhythm of the market. And you also can observe interest rates. Now, mortgage interest rates, this week they're up higher than they were last week. According to my trustee Mortgage News Daily, 6.81 for a 30-year fixed rate. FHA 6.34, VA 6.35. So these rates are higher than they were last week. Excuse me. And that hasn't really dampened demand. People are still out looking. You know, I want to mention that I met with a lender today, and she was. We were talking about a lot of different things, but she's with Centerville Bank, and she was telling me about this mortgage product that they have. It's a 7/1 adjustable rate mortgage. So I said 7/1. I said, so that means it's fixed for 7 years? She said yes. She said it's fixed for 7 years, and then it can only move up 1 point after the 7 years. So today, where we are in the market, the rate's about a 6.25 to 6.5 on this adjustable rate mortgage, compared to 6.81 for a 30-year fixed rate. It's generally expected that over the next 2 or 3 years, rates are going to drop. So if you're at that 6.25 with this adjustable rate mortgage, and 3 years in, you refinance to 5.85, you're saving a half a point, and you never had to suffer, quote unquote, air quotes, suffer the consequences of the adjustable rate mortgage. Okay, so, different points in the business cycle, adjustable rate mortgages were really bad. I advised people against getting them. But now, depending on the product and what your situation is, what your life goals are and time frame is, etc., an adjustable rate mortgage could be a very attractive option for you. Okay, so that is a great product that they have at Centerville Bank. Now, Centerville Bank, they don't have any branches here in northern Rhode Island, but they do have a branch in Pawtucket. They have one in Bristol. They have one downtown Providence. They're more in the Kent County area, but they are expanding. Okay, but my friend Nayali, she is the loan officer at Centerville Bank. So if you have any questions, I can't remember Nayali's telephone number, but give me a call, 401-409-5030, 401-409-5030, and I'll connect you with her. She also has a HELOC, a home equity line of credit product, and she also has a home equity loan where you get the money in a lump sum. So if you wanted to, let's say, buy an investment property or a second home, accessing the equity in your current home, you could do that, okay, with the home equity loan. So there are options that are available. Folks, you're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 on the AM dial. We are here every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. Quick shout out to Compass Title and Escrow. Anthony Betancourt and his team do a great job taking care of our buyers and sellers of real estate. They're actually even working on a short sale for me right now. And also Vern Rainville, public insurance adjuster. Vern is licensed by the state of Rhode Island to be a public insurance adjuster. That means he works for you, the homeowner, not the insurance company. Okay, so if you have a claim, we're getting a lot of crazy weather in the next couple of days. Something happens, you think you're going to need, or we just had crazy weather the past few days with all the wind and the hail and everything. Give Vern Rainville a call, 484-300-8495. That's 484-300-8495. Vern Rainville, public insurance adjuster. He will get back to you within 24 hours. I guarantee it. And even if your claim, your event happened 6 months, a year ago, give him a call because he may be able to help you. Okay, and the thing about Vern is he's so experienced and has so much knowledge, he'll be able to tell you over the phone or give you good direction over the phone what the chances are that he can help you. Okay, so give him a call, Vern Rainville, Public Insurance Adjuster, 484-300-8495. Again, 484-300-8495. That's Vern Rainville. It's not a, I know it's not a 401 area code, but he's a Rhode Island guy. He's a Northern Rhode Island guy. Give him a call, 484-300-8495. You will not regret it. Okay. Next, I want to talk a little bit about, we have a couple of listings I want to share with you. You know, listings are very tight. We haven't, in general in the marketplace, we haven't had a lot of listings coming up. You know, the inventory has been somewhat tight. And that's been a challenge for a lot of home buyers because they go to look at houses that they can afford and they don't have a lot to look at, or they don't like what they find, or it needs too much work, or it's too small, or it's not in the right neighborhood, or whatever it is. So there are it can be very frustrating looking for a house right now. So realtors like myself, we're always, we have a network. We're trying to talk to people to see if they're interested in selling their home or putting it on the market at some point. And when we reach out to them and talk, so I have a couple of listings that just came on, and one is a single-family listing. Now, right now, there's only 1,174 single-family listings in the entire state. Okay. So that's homes priced from like $300,000 up to 10 million. So there's not a lot out there. But I have a great listing, and this is one of those situations where the seller, we started talking. Let's see, this is July. We probably started talking in March or April about putting her house on the market. She had a lot of work to do. Now, I hadn't seen the house yet, only from the outside, and now, Joe, I've got to have a yard sale. I've got to do a lot of cleaning. Okay, great. So I stayed in touch. We also talked about things, she may want to do, shouldn't do. She invited me out to the house. We had a meeting about a month or so ago, and she was still doing some work. She'd painted the walls, which was a good sign, and she still had to replace carpets and do a lot of decluttering. And so I went back out there this week, and we met, and the house looks great. All new carpets. The walls are painted, so that stuff is good. She still has some decluttering to do. She has some oversized furniture that needs to be removed. But this is a great house for someone who is looking for an opportunity to add value and really make it their own. The house was built in 1963. It's 5 bedrooms, 2-car garage. Yes, 5 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, full basement. It's an unfinished basement with a bulkhead, so there's an opportunity to get a lot more livable space, maybe even make it into an in-law because you have that exterior access. So there's an opportunity there. You have it's a nice level yard. 100 feet of frontage on the street. It's in Bristol. It's on Arran Avenue, which goes right down to the water and the bike path. So great neighborhood to walk around. For kids to ride their bikes. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. And if this house were a couple of streets over, or if we're on this street and fully updated with a modern kitchen and bathrooms and whatnot, this would be $1 million house, or pretty darn close to it. Okay, we've got this priced at $849, and it's a phenomenal opportunity because it's got a good sized kitchen. It has a dining room. It has a living room. It has a den, or like an office area in addition to the den, and then it has 5 bedrooms. So it's a real great opportunity for someone. And then you've got that whole basement, high ceilings. The basement's dry, no evidence of water penetration, and it's a 2-car garage. So you have a lot of house here. I mean, you could really have If you finished that basement, you'd have over 4,000 square feet of, or close to 4,000 square feet of livable space. If you want a grandma or your adult kids to live there, you could have an accessory dwelling unit in the basement. You know, um, it's a really the super duper street. Great town, Bristol, Rhode Island. This is an awesome opportunity for someone. Now, of course, I know, we're in Northern Rhode Island talking, but if you know anyone who is looking for a home in the East Bay, have them give me a call, 401-409-5030. Again, 401-409-5030. And we'll get you in to look at the house ASAP. Okay, but you have to give me a call. The house is, the listing starts tomorrow. It's going to be coming soon, so you're not going to be able to get in right away until she removes some of this furniture that's in there. But I guarantee you will love the house, okay, because there's such a great opportunity for someone to add value there, because it's a lot of house on a great street. And, in real estate, location, 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 that's what you want. So we have another listing too that is coming on the market tomorrow. This is totally different. 3-family house. This is in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and it's 2 bedrooms per unit. It has a detached 2-car garage. It's on a corner lot. So this house also has tremendous upside potential. It has a full basement, and I think that the basement, if I had the house, this could be made into an accessory dwelling unit or combined with the first floor to make it into a townhouse. So instead of having 2 bedrooms in that first floor unit, maybe you could have 5 or 6 bedrooms for that first floor unit. Think of how much of a family you could have in there, or how much rent you could collect if you weren't going to live there yourself. Okay. Again, this basement, the basement, it's needs some attention and needs some love. But it could be a great opportunity to have a nice home for a family. And then you could still have the 2 upstairs units, the 2nd and 3rd floor, to rent out. And again, you've got 2 garages that you could either rent out or just use for yourself. Put your classic car in one and have the family car in the other. And there's parking in the driveway for 3, possibly 4 cars, depending on how you configure it. Okay, and it's a little bit of a backyard, a little grassy area for cookouts and things like that. So that's a nice house as well. This is going to be, we haven't set on a final price yet. It's going to be somewhere probably around $575, $585. But that will be coming live tomorrow. If you have any questions on that, if you're thinking about, buying a 3-family home, give me a call, 401-409-5030. You can also text me at that number, 401-409-5030. And, again, I'll get you in ASAP. This may be a nice opportunity. It is fully rented. The tenants are all month to month. So, if you wanted, you could get rid of all of them, or you could get rid of one of them, keep the other 2 in there. But it is performing as is. So rent is coming in as is. They are below market rents. I will let you know that is the case. But again, there's tremendous opportunity with this house. You just have to kind of have the vision thing going on, and I can certainly help you with that, because there are some other houses not far away that have been done up nicely and could be used as an after repair value comparison, okay, for this house. So got 2 nice options for you: a single family 5-bedroom home in Bristol, Rhode Island, on a swanky street with access right down to the water, close to downtown Bristol, all the restaurants, nice little boutiques and everything that you have in Bristol. You go in the other direction, you go to Warren. One thing about the East Bay is people who live there, they never have to leave, because you have everything there. If you don't have to come into the, West Bay, if you don't have to cross that bridge for work, you can work from home or something like that. Really, there's no reason to leave. You can just stay there. So that's an awesome thing about Bristol. And this house is kind of, it's a forever home. Okay, you could go in there, make it all your own, and it would be a forever home. And people might say, well, jeepers, Joe, it's a cape, $849,000. That's a lot of money. Yeah, it is a lot of money, but if you want something that is already updated and not even as big as this house, but that's already updated, you're well over $1 million in Bristol. Well over $1 million. So we are at a point in the marketplace here in Rhode Island. I mean, look, the median price of a single-family home is over $500,000. So $500,000, that's not an expensive house. Yes, it sounds like a lot of money. I totally agree, even as a guy who sells real estate for a living. But comparatively speaking, it's not a lot of money. And just go a few miles north to Massachusetts and you'll see how $500,000 is short money for a house just a few miles north of where I'm sitting. Okay? So everything is relative. And the thing is, Bristol, that's always been a desirous area, great access, to marinas and restaurants, and of course, the 4th of July parade and all of that, pomp and circumstance. Bristol is a really nice area, and it's always been highly desired. It's always been highly desired. So that's why this house, the price of this house, the value of this house reflects that. Okay, and incidentally, this is on the west side of Bristol, which is the better side, air quotes. The better side of Bristol, because the people in Bristol who don't live in that side, who live on that side, look down their nose at the people who live on the other side of Bristol. So, you want to live off of Hope Street, which is where this property is. So, give me a call, 401-409-5030, if you have any questions about either of these listings, the multifamily investment property or the single family in Bristol. That multifamily is in Pawtucket, great highway access. It's a nice quiet neighborhood. So just give me a call, 401-409-5030, and I guarantee I'll get you in as soon as possible. You have to give me a call directly, okay? And we'll get you in there so you can have a shot at putting an offer in if the house makes sense for you. If it doesn't make sense for you, I can certainly help you find another house that does. But the first step is to give me a call, 401-409-5030. That's your humble host, Joe Luca, right here at WNRI. So we talked about mortgage interest rates. I want to talk about the economy. I'm not sure if I mentioned this last week. It added 147,000 jobs in June, which beat analyst expectations. So that showed a lot of strength in the economy, which makes it less likely that the Fed is going to cut interest rates anytime soon. But who knows? This is something that appears to be very political. A year ago they were reducing interest rates. Now they're not. The president says what he says about Powell. So who knows what's going to happen in that regard. But I know one thing that has been continuing to occur is home values have been increasing significantly. Every month they're going up. Year over year the increases are very significant. So, don't put it off. If you were looking for a home in January of this year, okay, and you hadn't found something and you're still looking for a home now, that same average home is $47,000 more now than it was in January. Interest rates haven't dropped. Interest rates might even be a little higher now than they were back then. Buyer demand has been consistent. Maybe it's a little stronger now than it was in January, but it typically is this time of year. So, despite interest rates, despite all of the uncertainty in the economy with tariffs and politics and all this other nonsense, despite that stock market going up and down, I mean, the stock market has been pretty consistently high the past month or two, but for a while there it was, kind of helter-skelter. Despite that uncertainty, home values continued to increase. I don't see anything changing in the demand on the demand side. So if demand is going to remain consistent, supply isn't going to be changing anytime soon. Okay, like I said, even if they started building houses as fast, I said this a couple of weeks ago, if they started building houses as fast as possible right now, it's still going to be 6 to 10 years before we build ourselves out of this. And that's if the demand stays the same. And demand is going to increase going forward because right now there are 9 million adults between the ages of 18 and 34 living with family. At some point, these folks are going to go out on their own, and many of them are going to buy a home because they're saving money living at home. So when those, let's say it's just, 20% of those 9 million buyers, 9 million adults, that's 1.8 million buyers coming into the marketplace on top of what we already have in place. So whatever the number of buyers is right now that's continuing to push values higher because there's more demand than supply, that demand is going to increase by some factor of 5, 10, 15% of $9 million over the next several years. Doesn't matter what interest rates do. Okay, we're trying to do things, and I say we, I mean the real estate community, real estate professionals, the Rhode Island Association of Realtors, National Association of Realtors. We're trying to lobby folks. Rhode Island, we're very fortunate in that we have, we were the first state to pass ADU, accessory dwelling unit legislation, which allows homeowners to convert part of their home to be what was previously known as an in-law. Okay, this is something that is handled at the state level. Before, every municipality had their own way of identifying what the criteria were for an in-law. Well, now we have accessory dwelling units at the state level, so it supersedes any local codes that are in place. And you do not have to rent it to family members. Okay, you can rent it to people who are not family members and collect rent. That's an accessory dwelling unit. So this is something that we lobbied for, and we were able to have this passed into law because of the housing shortage. It was the quickest way to really make a change. Something else that we did, and we're continuing to lobby this with other municipalities, is reducing minimum lot sizes because the city of Providence did a great job. Woonsocket is also, generally well regarded as far as minimum lot sizes. But there are many other communities where the minimum lot sizes are pretty significant. I believe Cumberland, it's 10,000 square feet. Foster, it's 2 acres. 2 acres. That's over 80,000 square feet of land for one house. In Providence, they're putting houses on 3,000 square foot lots. You could put a whole neighborhood on that one housing lot in Foster. Not literally, but because you'd have, you need streets and whatnot. But you could put a lot of homes on that 2 acres. Okay. Folks, it's coming up. It's about 11 minutes before the hour. You're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 on the AM dial. And of course, I forgot to say it earlier, WNRI.com. We are streaming. Just go to WNRI.com, scroll down a little bit on the page, and you want to click the button so you can stream. No paywall or anything. You can listen to us anywhere in the world on the internet. Just go to WNRI.com. Again, quick shout out to our sponsors. Vern Rainville, Public Insurance Adjuster, 484-300-8495. Licensed by the state of Rhode Island. Vern will return your call within 24 hours, but you have to call him, 484-300-8495. If you receive damage from the hailstorm the other day or the wind, the powerful wind and rain that we had, give Vern a call before you call your insurance company, because Vern works for you, the homeowner. You have to call him, 484-300-8495. And of course, Compass Title and Escrow, Anthony Betancourt and his team do a great job taking care of our buyers and sellers of real estate. Now, of course, we're talking about real estate right here on the Joe Luca Real Estate Show, but after this show, Rick Mernier is going to be here, and he's going to be talking about the Bible, scripture readings, okay? And Rick has a very unique and powerful talent, gift in sharing the scripture, sharing God's word with his listeners. So please stay tuned right here on WNRI after the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. Stay on the station, listen to Rick Mernier, and you will not regret it, because every time I listen to Rick, if it's not for the whole show, even if it's just for part of the show, I learn something that carries me through part of the day, part of the week, or whatever it may be. So the Old Time Preaching Ministry right here on WNRI at 7 p.m. every Tuesday evening with Rick Mernier. All right, the last few minutes we want to just talk about more about real estate and what's going on. So we've been having a lot of trends that have been going on in real estate. The market has continued to trend going upward. It's continuing to increase. We have home starts are up, and that's a good sign. And right now we're talking about national numbers. Okay, the numbers in Rhode Island are generally stronger than what we're observing nationally, and I want you to enjoy that. Listen and just soak that in. The real estate numbers in Rhode Island are better than the national numbers, and they're better than the numbers in down south in the Sun Belt. Never would have thought that would have happened a few years ago, huh? When everybody was leaving the Northeast, moving down south. Well, in Rhode Island, we have been experiencing a strong market, continued, sustained equity accumulation. Other parts of the country, values like in the Sun Belt going down, or flat, or not going up much. We have some of the hottest markets nationwide are in the Northeast. We have Buffalo, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Providence, Rhode Island, and Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, so those are some of the hottest markets in the country. And Rhode Island, I was talking with my friend Nayali today, and we are so blessed because we have everything here. And yeah, we could go and complain about so many things in this state, but if you want to live in a real rural area, farm country, we have it. If you want to live on the water with access to beaches, we have it. You want to live on ponds or lakes, we have it. You want to live in suburban, communities, we have it. You want to live in more densely populated, multicultural areas, we have it. And everything is within an hour. So we've got a lot going on in the state of Rhode Island, and I think more and more people are starting to appreciate that, and that's why fewer and fewer people are leaving Rhode Island, and many people are coming back to Rhode Island, and we have people from other states moving to Rhode Island, from New York, from Connecticut, from Massachusetts, okay? Because property values here, they're probably a little bit cheaper in Connecticut than here, like when you're comparing eastern Connecticut to Rhode Island. When you get to western Connecticut, it's still crazy expensive because it's closer to New York City. But property values here are probably a little bit more than, not probably, they are a little bit more than they are in Connecticut and Eastern Connecticut, but the property taxes in Connecticut are really high, and they have a lot of fiscal issues that they're still working through in Connecticut, so I don't anticipate that that's going to change. They have problems at the state level, and of course when the state has problems, that puts more pressure on the municipalities, because the municipalities they won't receive as much money from the state for schools and things like that. But Rhode Island in particular, but the Northeast in general, but Rhode Island in particular is much better. Nationwide delistings surge nearly 50% as sellers who can't get their price quit the market in frustration. Now, the only time that happens around here is when people are really overly ambitious with their home. Okay, you have to listen to your realtor, price the home where he or she feels it should be priced. If you start pushing higher than that, don't be surprised, 1, when you don't get any action, and 2, you don't get any offers, and 3, when you have to do price drops. Okay, and it's just better off pricing it appropriately. If it's priced too low, you're probably going to receive several offers, which would drive the price up again. If you come in too high, even if you have an offer made at that price, but it's not supported by other sales in the area, the house isn't going to appraise. Then you have the issue of, it didn't appraise. Am I going to lower the price? Can the buyer come up in price? What's going to happen? And it's just another opportunity for the deal to fall apart. And it's frustrating because you cannot wrap things up in an expeditious manner. Okay, so you want to really try and listen to your realtor. He or she is the real estate professional. If they're full-time, this is something they do every day. They wake up, they go to work, they study the market, they study buyers. They know what buyers are looking for, what's valuable to buyers, what buyers want in a home. Approximately how much the average buyer is willing to spend to upgrade, to update a home, to remodel a home. Okay? So, Rhode Island is bucking the trend nationwide. It's great that Rhode Island is ahead of the nation. We are better than most of the country for good things, not bad things. Okay, so hey folks, we are wrapping up right now. This is the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. I'm Joe. I'm here every Tuesday evening from 6 to 7 p.m. Please stay tuned for Rick Murney and the Old Time Preaching Ministry right here on 99.9 FM. We will be back next Tuesday. We will be back, same bat time, same bat channel. So don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions on anything we've talked about, you can give me a call at 401-409-5030. Thank you to our sponsors, Vern Rainville, Public Insurance Adjuster, and Compass Title and Escrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.